Though kinda young, I have been a huge fan of Star Trek for years, first getting introduced to reruns of the original series on MeTV. It was always a treat getting to dive deeper into this science fiction world every week. We later got a hold of some of the Star Trek movies on DVD. I believe the first one was Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Honestly, an underrated movie. Then later, The Wrath of Khan, Generations, The Voyage Home, etc. What truly solidified my love for Star Trek, though, was The Next Generation. I would then go on to watch all the rest of the series like DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and way more recently the new shows like Picard and Discovery. As the title suggests, I will be ranking all of these series from worst to best, in my personal order. One very quick side note I should make is that I am covering the mainline Star Trek series. I will not be covering any of the cartoons because I have no interest in them. So with that in mind, let's start with number 9. Discovery. Now, I have been avoiding modern Star Trek for a long time, but I recently decided to take the dive and come back with my own opinions. Sadly, it was pretty bad. I wanted to like this series. Change and new direction isn't a bad thing in my eyes, but this show just does it horribly. For me, I think there are 3 main issues. Number 1 being, where is the science fiction? Every problem in this show feels like some kind of action-packed whiplash adventure, with no gripping plot or ideas that really gets those gears turning in your head. Problem 2 would be the arc-based storytelling. Every season of Discovery is one big story arc that starts and ends in each of these seasons, and every single arc is either an Earth-ending nightmare that Michael Burnham has to fix, or a universe-ending nightmare that Michael Burnham has to fix. Problem number 3, the characters. I legit can't even remember the names of most of them. I can remember Michael Burnham, or Mr. Saru, Emperor Georgiou, and Tilly. That's it. The only character I actually like as well is Saru. He honestly should have stayed captain of the Discovery, and they shouldn't have made him a side character in Season 5. I could make a very long video about Star Trek Discovery and how I think it's just disappointing as a Star Trek series, but Discovery has been torn apart enough, so I'm just going to leave it as it's just my least favorite Star Trek series. The question is though, is there any redeeming qualities? The concept is good, the effects look good, Saru is good, and though far from great, the show does start to improve a bit with seasons 3 through 5. But that's about all I can give it though. Just to put it into perspective, I can think of maybe 3 or 4 episodes from TNG that I dislike. From Discovery, I can think of 3 or 4 episodes that I do like. I'll try to think of them off the top of my head. So forgive me, this is not even on script, I'm just doing it right here. The episode where Saru goes to his home planet, and they figure out, spoilers obviously, they figure out that they were actually the predators of the planet, not the other aliens who kept them very oppressed. That was a good episode. I like the episode where Emperor Georgiou goes back to her universe, but in the past, but she's changed, and she's trying to do better, if I remember correctly. I like that one episode in Season 5 where Burnham and her new first officer is like jumping through different times or different universes or something. I don't really remember correctly. And I'm genuinely struggling to think of a 4th episode that I do like. Okay, finally moving on to number 8 with Starfleet Academy. You may be surprised to see this one higher than Discovery, and though it is quite bad, in my opinion, it is just a little bit better. The sets and effects look great. I think the acting for the most part is serviceable, and honestly, the concept isn't bad. Despite a lot of the main complaints I've seen with Starfleet Academy is that the concept just couldn't work. They're at an academy, right? But Deep Space Nine, which spoilers is very high on this list, it just takes place on a space station. The exploration aspect of finding new worlds and aliens and whatnot is the basis of Star Trek, but it doesn't mean, in my opinion, that Star Trek cannot work without traveling and exploring new sections of the galaxy and whatnot, which, DS9 does do that to a degree, but you know what I mean. What this show does have, though, is dumb character arcs, lousy writing, and the Academy being on the USS Athena is pure stupidity. Most of the characters are also insufferable, except for Robert Picardo reprising his role as the EMH, and Nala Ake. I actually think she's quite underrated. The main criticism her character gets is how unprofessional she is. She is unserious and carefree, doesn't follow standard captain code, and at times even a bit disrespectful. These are valid criticisms for Star Trek captains, but I think most viewers misunderstand the character a little bit. For starters, she left Starfleet, and Starfleet came to her needing her to captain the Athena and help teach the newbies at the Academy. She is not fully up to code because she is there to help Starfleet and redeem herself to Caleb. She's not really there to be your standard by-the-book strict captain. She's too old to even care about standardized code of conduct or formal manners, and by old, I mean really old. See, she is half a lanthanite and is over 400 years old. Anyways, I just wanted to yap about that a bit. She's not a great character, but a bit underrated, in my opinion. She could be way worse. Or at least that I think the main criticism she gets is kinda invalid. Anyways, SFA is a pretty bad show. I can't even think of a single good episode. Moving on to number 7, Strange New Worlds. S&W has definitely won over a lot of fans compared to other recent Star Trek series, and I can see why to a degree. It's episodic, it has a lot of familiar faces that are in the cast, including Pike, Spock, Uhura, but for me at least, I wasn't really won over at all. I even, just now, considered moving this below SFA. Something about this series felt so try-hard to me. It's a decent show, but not a good Star Trek show. It tries really hard to be oddly comedic a lot of the times. Any and all character arcs were quickly rushed through without proper build-up or payoff. Like Dr. Mbenga, he had his daughter kept away as a transporter signature because she had a terminal illness with no found cure. This could have been a decent plot device that could have been built up throughout the series. For an example, Odo finding his people or Data learning about humanity, but instead it was resolved in only a few episodes after it was even revealed. And in a comedy episode nonetheless, where we had the cast playing out some fairy tale novel, simply wasted potential. Or how about Captain Pike coming to terms with the horrible fate he would one day face? This could have been something that stuck with his character, but it only appears when an episode calls for it. And at any other time, it's pretty much a nothing burger. Outside of issues like that, I don't like the gimmick episodes either, like the Rick and Morty cartoon one or the frickin' musical episode. Also, Spock's character is completely assassinated in this, and I could go on for 50 years as to why, so I'm not going to here. S&W is better than Discovery and barely better than Starfleet Academy, but in my opinion, it is just okay. Now moving on to number 6 was Star Trek Picard. Making a series about Jean-Luc Picard, even having the original actor Patrick Stewart reprise his role for said series, should have been a home run and a perfect recipe for a 10 out of 10 series, but it wasn't. Star Trek Picard was my gateway into modern Star Trek. At this point, I had just finished my rewatch of Next Generation and its accompanied movies, and I just wanted more TNG. Like I mentioned earlier, I avoided modern Star Trek for the longest time, and though I had no interest in STD or S&W, I at least had some level of interest in Picard, and who couldn't? It was a sequel series to The Next Generation, starring Patrick Stewart. So I finally gave it a shot, and was bombarded with foul language, lens flare, sad boy hours Picard, an awful cast of quirky crewmates, and a depressing plot of how the entire race of androids were banned by Starfleet because of something that happened because of the Romulans, I think. That caused androids to kill humans on Mars. If my memory serves me correct, this attack caused Starfleet to abandon a rescue mission to save the Romulans from their dying planet, later causing Picard to resign from Starfleet. What a start. All of this is episode 1, by the way. What a start. When you compare to The Next Generation, am I right? The plot of both season 1 and 2 is very wonky and makes poor use of Patrick Stewart and any other cameos they got from the original cast like Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes. So you might ask, why do I put this series above all other modern Star Trek series? Though the writing makes poor use of returning characters, the actors are still amazing. And whether the plot is bad or not, it's hard not to enjoy seeing these characters return, whether it be when Picard took a brief refuge at Riker's and Troy's home, or Picard's final goodbyes to Data. These were genuinely great scenes buried under awful new characters and bad plot. And then Season 3 happened. Season 3 was actually good. I won't say it was amazing, but it was good, period. No joke. Good enough to the point where I don't even want to spoil anything here. If you are a fan of Star Trek, especially The Next Generation, and don't want to watch modern Star Trek like I was, do yourself a favor and just watch Star Trek Picard Season 3. Season 1 and 2 aren't even that important to enjoy Season 3, so that is what I would recommend. We are now entering the top 5. You probably aren't that surprised that the original 5 series take up all 5 slots, and I'm honestly not trying to bash modern Star Trek. I wanted to enjoy the new stuff, and I gave them an honest and fair chance. And admittedly, they aren't as bad as most Star Trek fans make them out to be. But modern Star Trek is just missing a lot of the heart and core premise that the old series had. Modern Star Trek isn't awful, it's just bad Star Trek. So with that, the number 5 slot goes to Star Trek, the original series, or TOS for short. It feels wrong placing TOS this low, but I assure you, I absolutely love this series. TOS was my entry point to the franchise. I have a vivid memory of catching it on TV, but being a bit too young at the time and wasn't allowed to watch it. That curiosity grew until I was old enough to watch it with my dad on MeTV. We would watch it every week on Saturday, I believe, and each episode was always a great adventure, and was a great message and hopeful outlook for humanity. The TOS cast is iconic, with every character serving a purpose and being memorable. I could name every one of them right off the top of my head. The only bit of criticism that I would give TOS is that the acting was a bit silly at times, very dramatic and over the top, and the comedy was a little bit too much every now and again. Just a little bit. The sets and effects were great for the time, but in a more modern light looked blatantly fake, almost cartoony at times. And that's about it. I love TOS, but in all honesty, the franchise would only get better from here. The TOS movies were a huge improvement when compared to the series, and TNG would take what TOS started and make it even better. Take a shot of milk every time I say TOS, by the way. Which goes right into number 4, Star Trek The Next Generation. This placement is definitely a hot take. Modern Star Trek taking up the entire bottom 4? Yeah, no one would disagree with that. TOS being at the bottom of the 5 original Star Trek series, I can see most people at least understanding that. But TNG being under Voyager, DS9, and Enterprise, of all things, would get me beaten up in a turbo lift. But there are a few points I want to make. For starters, this is my list, and I'm giving my honest thoughts. And second, as much as I love TNG, similar to how TNG improved over TOS, I think the next few series even surpassed the legendary run of TNG. The Next Generation, I'm just going to say here and now, is a perfect TV series. Not an 8 out of 10, not even a 9 out of 10. I'm talking 9.5 plus. When someone thinks of Star Trek, they think of TNG. When someone talks about Star Trek, they talk about TNG. And for good reason. TNG really took the core of Star Trek and improved on every aspect of it. It is almost a reimagining of the formula, but with better budget, writing, characters, and acting. The only bit of criticism I can think to give The Next Generation, I'm going to stop spamming TNG over and over again, is that the first couple seasons, as much as I hate to say it, they were a little bit rough. I know it's something that everyone says, but when you go back and watch Next Generation, or even when you think of like Next Generation, like think of like the best episodes. I never think of anything from like season 1. I think season 2 and 3 are very fine. A lot of people say that TNG was rough for season 2 and 3. Like the first 3 seasons. I disagree with that. But season 1 was definitely rough. But once that roughness weaned off though, especially in like I won't say the later seasons, but just in general as the series went on, it kind of got better and better. It's just peak Star Trek, and 100% deserves all the love and glaze that it gets to this day. Number 3, Star Trek Voyager. Voyager is such a great series, and barely surpasses TNG for me. And I think the main reason why is the concept. Nothing screams exploration and finding new life and new civilizations like being stuck in deep space and finding these unknown, completely new worlds. I also think the cast of Voyager is one of the strongest, with Janeway, the legendary EMH, that hard carries SFA, Tuvok, Neelix, Tom Paris, and everyone else. The series also handles character interactions so well. I always enjoy the episodes where Neelix and Tuvok are the focus, or the rough around the edges Tom Paris with the squeaky clean Kim, or the friendship between Janeway and Tuvok. And on top of all of that, I believe that Voyager didn't have a rough start like TNG did. From the jump, Voyager was just so great, and is super underrated. Number 2, Enterprise, by far the most underrated Star Trek series. And no, it's not just because I'm a huge fan of Scott Bakula. Seeing essentially the beginning of Starfleet gives off the same vibe that Voyager did, of everything truly feeling new and potentially dangerous. The NX-01 always felt underprepared for everything they faced, and was a genuine risk when exploring and branching off from the Vulcans. This show had such a bad reputation for people complaining about the theme song, or how bad the ending was, or how the Star Trek franchise was just feeling a lot of burnout at the time, instead of actually watching it. If you decide to watch it, you will find one of the strongest cast of characters, great plot with the Vulcans and with the Xindi, and just an overall super fun Star Trek ride from beginning to end. Well, the last episode was really bad, like painfully bad. And finally was number 1, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This show right here goes beyond even Star Trek. DS9 is in general just one of the greatest shows ever made, period. I'm going to keep this one very brief because I could legit talk for hours about what makes DS9 so good, and probably will one day. For starters, the cast of characters, character growth, acting, and character interactions is easily the best in the franchise, and it's not even close. The setting, set designs, and cinematography is also near perfect, and I also struggled to even think of a couple bad episodes. The whole deep-rooted plot of the Cardassians and the Bajorans with Starfleet slap-dabbed in the middle was so perfectly executed, and on top of that was the whole wormhole and the war with the Minions was so good. Again, I'm going to end this here because this is a ranking, not a full-on review of these series, but I could go on for hours about Deep Space Nine. Anyways, fellow Trek fans, give me your ranking of each of the series in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about mine. Do you agree, or am I about to get beat up in a turbo lift? With that, I don't know where I'm uploading this. This is very different from what I normally make. I might just make a new channel, so if you see this on a new channel, welcome. I'll probably make more videos on Star Trek, and if not, sorry for the random upload. Anyways, goodbye.